Daryl attempts to lead the surviving Alexandrians on a dangerous trek to Hilltop. But danger can come from within as well as without. And Father Gabriel tries to show Dr. Carson that God is leading them exactly where they need to be. Which is true, just not where they think that's supposed to be. It's Journeys of Faith on this week's The Walking Dead, Season 8, Episode 11. Dead or alive, or... Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of The Walking Dead. So yes, spoilers shambling forward like the massive walkers perpetuating through this show. Alright, so this week, as I mentioned in the opening, we're really looking at journeys of faith, of trust, pretty much through all of our three major storylines. For Father Gabriel, it is that faith that he is being led where he needs to be. The problem with those journeys, of course, is that often you think where that journey is supposed to end up, and fate, God, whoever you'd like to assign it to, often thinks, nah, that's actually going to be somewhere else. For Daryl, well, not really so much. With Daryl's journey, we're really looking, of course, at Tara and Dwight, where Dwight is trying to show to the group, and has, for reasons he spells out, I think, very, very clearly in this episode, that he is a person that can be trusted, that he has made his decision and he has committed to it. Tara, of course, still upset over Denise's death, and appropriately so. But here, this is about her journey through this to discover that she can trust to have faith in Dwight, that he does mean what he says. And then, of course, for Maggie, a little more looking at the bigger picture. For Maggie, it's that trust in togetherness, that coming together, having mercy, having that faith, that belief, that trust in the larger group of the possibilities of what can happen together is her journey of trust, because, of course, that happens to involve some of the Savior's prisoners of war. But let's start things off talking about Father Gabriel's journey. And I gotta say, I kind of love how they connected everything at the very beginning, even if it was just on radio, where we have the group of Saviors on the bridge, hearing that Father Gabriel and Dr. Carson have escaped, and to go check everything and look out. And of course we find out that, coincidentally enough, as they leave to go look for Dr. Carson and Father Gabriel, that allows an opening for Daryl's group to head out, because of course they're hiding underneath that particular bridge. So if the group hadn't left, Daryl's group might have been stuck there, might have had to deal with some extra problems. So again, things are going where they are supposed to be. But with Father Gabriel, we're of course seeing that he is going blind because of the infection from all of the walker guts that he was subjected to. And which I think was kind of an interesting, I love how they are developing this a little bit more. But of course, really through all of this, it is trusting, trying to show Dr. Carson, who is our big doubter of the show, of the episode, that to have faith, to believe where everything is going. Kind of really continuing a lot of Gabriel's journey in this season, where he keeps talking about being where he is supposed to be, where he can do the most work. Was it with Negan? Was it getting Negan out? Was it then getting there so he can leave Dr. Carson back to Hilltop, which is where he thinks it's going right now. Now the journey overall, for some of these, this episode, there was annoyance factors in each one. Was the ending or the beginning? For this one, I think it started cool and it started getting annoying down the road. In some ways, they framed it nicely. I like how, because he's going blind, and the walker's coming up, that's how they have to sort of, that allows him to hear the bell, which ends up just being the metal banging against the communications tower, so that he can go and find the radio operator's place, and so they can go in there, and in the radio operator place they're going to be able to find the medications and the antibiotics that's going to help him with his vision. So that whole journey of trust, I think, was cool. And yes, you're going to have a natural doubt with Dr. Carson. It lost it for me with the pig. Even finding the meds, I thought, to me, that was the point. You can have the, all right, because the car didn't start back up and we had to kill the walker, that allowed us to hear the bells. And because we heard the bells, that allowed us to find the radio place, and that allowed us to find the meds. And how we have Father Gabriel looking through everything because he's trying to find answers. He is searching, that's always Father Gabriel, and finds the meds. And so when Dr. Carson sees that, oh my God, this guy might have saved your life. Gabriel's line right there, I'm not going to say everything. That was it. To me, that was the peak of that journey. Because the minute they found that they knocked the pig over and that's where the keys in the map were, that was way too much. That was stepping over the line. Then I was like, oh my God, come on. How much? You guys hit it pretty much on the head, but you had your arc. This is pushing it too far. And then, of course, we get the danger that they run in because only Father Gabriel is starting to see things, his vision starting to clear up. Then he can notice a sign that despite them saying that Dr. Carson had looked all around, had inspected the area, that they didn't find any of the traps or anything else, or he didn't notice a sign that said traps. See, this is where it sort of lost it. And especially because they seem to make a note that there is camo netting surrounding this place. And maybe that's the reason why the walkers haven't come through. They had to sort of tear through it. So maybe it worked as sort of a light barrier. The fact that as soon as he steps, well, okay. I think that in the zombie apocalypse, you should be well trained to respond to the words stop and stop. Now, I know that he's from Hillside, and I know he's the doctor, and I know they had sort of a lighter living, and they were just sort of farming, and they weren't subjected to everything that Rick and the gang was, so he may not be so strongly trained. However, the what, stumble backwards into the traps, that was annoying. Father Gabriel then blindly moving through the traps so deftly, also being a bit much. And also, you know, bear traps or whatever those are, and there's like snap bones, cause huge gashes. You don't just sort of limp off afterwards with that done. And of course, the shot, you know, blinded. I mean, I can go with this to a certain extent. It just seemed to be milking the point a little too much. But you still believe, at least can follow, that Father Gabriel, he's right at the end. We were able to get through, we were able to escape, even wounded. We now have a truck, we have a map, we know where we're going. And then the Savior show up. Which was sort of kind of a kick in the pants on that, I have to admit. And then the doc's final, like, stepping up to try and be brave, which just got him shot. Again, I guess they had to take the chance. But it's just funny because, of course, as we see this, at this whole time, Gabriel is thinking that his job is to deliver the doctor to Hilltop. Because Maggie needs a doc. The doc is coming, it's just not coming through here. But at this darkest point, Father Gabriel eventually should discover that he ends up being led where he needs to go. It's just not at Hilltop. That's going to end up going to be with Eugene. Now the whole Tara and Dwight bit, kind of the opposite of the Father Gabriel journey there, which started cool and got annoying. I found that Tara's journey got annoying and then ended up being kind of cool at the end, though it really kind of pushed it to me a little bit there during that time also. I mean, starting straight off of throwing the walker onto Dwight, that's cold. That's cold. And I mean, I get it. Again, this is the day after Alexandria's been bombed. Everything in this season is really time compressed. No real time has passed. So I understand her still being upset and still holding that anger and everything towards Dwight. The fact that it's just pushed too much. I would think with everything that Tara's gone through and the back and forth, she has learned a little bit of maturity of honing things down. And I think that's where, sometimes that's where Walking Dead, I think, sort of loses it. In order for drama, we tend to lose the lessons that these characters should have already learned. But of course, it's understandable. She's upset about Denise. She is blaming Dwight. And Dwight accepts full responsibility. I mean, that's one thing about Dwight in this, is him really acknowledging and publicly acknowledging that he knows how this journey is going to end. That this all ends with his death at one point or another. He has accepted that. All he wants is to be able to get Negan first. Stop the Saviors. Help them out. And I did love this little moment when they were asking about, can he be trusted? And him saying, look, I haven't just betrayed them. I've killed them. You guys have all seen this. You know what that means. I'm the first one whose head's up on a pike. So, I mean, he has done all of these moves to really, I think, sort of to make Tara, there should have been a bit more of trust in her, though it's understandable. I mean, even Daryl ultimately, while he does get mad about what ends up happening, wants him back because he wants to be able to kill Dwight himself. That's going to be the end of battling at the end. So just the Tara stuff, just to me, it got pushed a little too far. It was a little much. I do have to say, however, with that, is the fact that she did end up shooting at him when he pushed too much, with that point of, what are you going to do here? This is wrong, you know, yes, you can kill me, yes, that's all right, but here at this point isn't the best point, and her just like, nah, live with it, bam! I appreciated the fact that she fired at him. Because if she's going to push it this far, to back off at that point, that would have been a little too much. That they pushed it into this big journey. I had to figure out at some point, Dwight has to save Tara. That's the only way that this ends up being resolved. Whether it was, you know, figuring it was probably going to be a walker attack in the swamp, ends up being other saviors that are looking for them. And I liked how they build up the tension right there at that moment too, where Tara is all the time thinking that he is going to betray her and to keep him from moving out. And they can't make any noise. She can't shoot him because that would draw the saviors over. And he waits until the very moment the saviors are going to come in. They're going to discover him, and then he steps out. Oh, I've escaped. No, it's not from the swamp. I just came from there. And then that moment shows to Tara that he can be true. Everything that he has said is true. And I think that arc there was important. In some ways, it needed to get to that ridiculous level to really, I think, hammer things home with Tara. We also find out that Laura, I think was it, the girl that did get away from that ambush that Dwight did, hasn't been seen yet. So he is kind of safe for the moment. Though, you know, that's only a ticking clock. She is going to show up at a point. So, again, as much as Dwight is upset, I think it's because he's gone and he can't kill herself. But it is cool how it did turn around right there. How Daryl is worried. He can tell all about, and Tara's like, no, he can be trusted. We can believe in Dwight. He totally led them away. That was kind of a cool eventual turnaround from all of that story. Though also did love the line from Rosita when Tara said, you know, if you saw that, why didn't you try to stop me? And Rosita's response was, couldn't have stopped me. She did her own little journey right there and wasn't going to be stopped. So she understands. It's a journey you have to go through and be able to come out the other side. Oh, and I do have to say, this whole swamp sequence, really disturbing. The whole idea of underwater walkers really bothers me. You can't see, I mean, walkers are dangerous enough. You don't want to enter an area where you can't see them. Now, I did appreciate that they were at least, you know, they had the sticks and they were probing and they were searching all around. Good decision making right there. Much safer. Though, and I gotta say, they were totally cool coming up out and having sort of like the mud and things, you know, like the whole swamp monster walker idea. Really cool looking. But I was, you know, just constantly expecting, even when they were jumping forward to go and stab him in the head, I was like, yeah, but there could be some underneath, and what if they were, and this would have been kind of a cool thing, to have some walkers actually rooted in place, like they'd been there for so long that the trees and vines have grown around that they can't actually get out, they're just sort of stuck. I mean, that would have been kind of interesting, and that was honestly my fear for the stuff underwater. So, yeah, could understand why that was a dangerous route to go, and there were some totally cool walkers, but personally, that's just bad stuff waiting to happen. Now, Maggie's journey this episode, a little less literal than the others two, but still a journey of faith, of trust, specifically in community and in looking at dealing with these savior prisoners. How do we deal with these people? Now, she has that mantle of responsibility, so it does kind of all fall on her. You can see where you have your own challenges there. Tough on, light on resources, supplies, food, as well as personnel. Not a whole lot that you can spare to prisoners. You have to look for your own people first. So I understand Maggie's point coming from that. But our savior prisoner also has a good point. They're still people. Not all of them really are on the savior's side. The redheaded guy is. Man, he should be fucking dead at this point. Why is he still alive? But still, that idea of fair treatment, even as prisoners, they've been acting well, they've been acting good. Can there be some reward? Can there be some sort of benefit for it? So that's sort of what Maggie is dealing with this episode. Not a real complicated journey. She's got to deal with Gregory, of course, who's just a douche. But for Maggie, I think it really comes clear as soon as Daryl and the rest of the Alexandrians show up. First off, that arrival scene, that was beautifully done. I have to say, I love the fact that it was done silently. And you can see Daryl saying, you know, it's Carl, he's gone, you know, and the effect that that has on everyone else. I just loved how they did that quietly and just let that moment kind of sit with the characters. And then we have Sadiq, and it was, you know, it was his meeting, that small interaction with Maggie to just put everything so perfectly in perspective. How he is so graciously just being thankful for what she is offering. It's like she's so concerned with their limited resources, with everything that's so small, that's so tight, and that's so threatened. You know, it's not much. It's everything. This is someone who's been journeying on his own, surviving on his own, has now been brought into this community. Has someone died helping him? And now just wants to give back, that can recognize the actual value in that humanistic approach, that compassion. And it pays off perfectly in that moment because, of course, then Maggie finds out that this same person who was there because of an act of compassion on Carl's part is exactly who she needs. There's the doctor. And that becomes that perfect turning point of why when she comes back up and goes back to the Savior's camp and says, okay, we're going to lead you out, we're going to do all of this. Why? Because together we can do it. That exchange with Gregory, I hate him, was just so perfect. How do you expect to win? Look around you. How can we lose? All of us together. Now, admittedly, of course, they do have some more men from Alexandria so they could spare the guards and stuff. I don't think it brought any resources with them. But it does point out the importance of being together, of working, of that compassionate approach does have greater rewards around. Her faith to continue to believe in that, for the reasons that Carl died, is what's going to give them a better tomorrow. Now, admittedly, we also have in the hillside our little Morgan, Henry, Carol interaction right there. Again, redheaded guy, like I mentioned before, deserves to die. Oh, we don't want that kid here. He's freaking us out. Oh, I'm sorry, guy who murdered all these people. Bad savior. Who cares what you think? But we've got Morgan and Henry as the little PTSD pair, which Carol can immediately suss out. Morgan's just like, nah, kid's fine. Kid is not fine. You know, you can't point out who killed you. You can't feed into this. Morgan's too much in the middle of this to really recognize what Henry is going through. But I did like that that did eventually turn around, how Morgan did tell little Henry, oh, the person responsible, it's Gavin, the person that you already killed. So you can end that journey, end that pursuit. Because Morgan knows, I think, just as much as anyone, that that road never really ends. You pursue down that revenge, that psychosis, it will engulf you, as it pretty much does him. Can Morgan still pull it out? Don't really know, but at least he can recognize... Well, Carol can certainly recognize what's going on. Maybe at least Morgan can recognize that Carol can recognize what's going on. And has that chance to pull back just a little bit himself. And Negan and Eugene. You know, I love the tension set up in that first sequence. I love how Jeffrey Dean Morgan can just chew up the scenery. You know, the threatening with that big smile on his face. Just, I love his character so much. And I gotta give it up to Eugene. His ability to lie right to Negan's face, committing to his story. Perfect. But what we really get out of this is, of course, Eugene getting set up in his bullet-making factory. This is going to be his journey going forward. And I think this might be where he can actually put in maybe some good use. Even though he's working for Negan, he seemed to at least delay a little bit of how long it's going to take for him to get the bullets up and going. But then we've got Father Gabriel brought in. And again, appreciate Eugene sticking to his story, not giving up, not panicking or anything as Father Gabriel is coming in. Like that Father Gabriel just went ahead and threw Dr. Carson under the bus, that he was the one responsible for the escape, even though he's the one who really got dragged into it. But Carson's already dead. This, to me, was his purpose, so we could get Father Gabriel back with Eugene in the bullet-making factory. Because I think this is where Father Gabriel can actually do some good. Some sabotage. Maybe even him and Eugene in some ways working together on this. Eugene did seem at the beginning of the scene very psychotically committed to his leadership role and not caring for anybody else's input. Certainly very mean against the girls, offering food and massage. But I do think eventually this is going to be maybe where he can start to do some good. I mean, having a bullet factory, if it goes back into Rick's group's hands, that would be useful. But that's where I think this is. I think this is why Father Gabriel ended up here. This is where he's meant to be. And it's back with Eugene, maybe doing some actual good. But don't worry, I haven't forgotten it. This week's Scene of the Week comes at the end of the episode, and it's because it's a game changer. And yes, of course, I am referring to Negan's grasp of an idea out of the suggestion of a catapult of zombie parts to use the guts of the zombies as a new weapon. Basically, poisoning blades. I am intrigued if they're going to do like bullet dipping, though once you fire it, that should burn everything off and not actually make it a very effective killing tool. But any knives, any bats, anything that can cause wounds, if they are coated in zombie guts, we are now looking at super infection. If it comes from within them and gets into you, you join the club. That adds just a whole new level of nastiness. I mean, we have seen walker bombs. We have seen, I believe we have seen body parts and things thrown out there. We have that possible use of infection. We have never really caught the whole poison blade idea. And this is going to make that close quarter combat really nasty. But you could do IEDs with zombie guts in there. I mean, there's a lot of ways you could potentially disperse this as a new biological weapon. So with this one little shot, and beautifully, nastily done, all that coating of Lucille on that, which I thought was a great kind of fullback, because as in that first scene with Eugene, when Negan was saying the bullets are the last result, Lucille gets her first one up. Now it ends up being that maybe bullets aren't really the best weapon even in this. Something like Lucille really is the more effective point. So yeah, this is going to certainly change some combat going forward, and just this is like an actual walker bomb. A bomb with walkers in it that blows out into you in shrapnel, and not good. Not good at all. You're going to need those bottles of antibiotics. Oh, no, those got captured. All right, they're screwed. Father Gabriel's line to Dr. Carson at the beginning of the episode, I think, really summed everything up perfectly. We're on the right path even if we're on the wrong road. Yeah, again, I think that sums up the episode perfectly. Did you catch how Negan keeps trying to put the blame for all the violence on Rick? That discussion with Eugene, oh, we're not doing anything, we're just going to do our stuff. If they want to fight us, well, then that's all their fault. That's all on them. And, you know, with them, he's saying Rick. So, kind of a constant thing. He wants to be the savior, but it's like anything that's against that, well, that's everybody else's fault for just not bending a knee to him. And Hilltop is getting armored walls. Just really cool. Love them putting up the sheet metal and everything. Just, yeah, perfect. Armor up everything as much as you can. I like the Father Gabriel vision. I just did a couple of shots on it, but I thought that was nicely done. Just kind of gave a little point of view from Father Gabriel's side. And did you notice the engraving on the piggy bank? I love ham radio. Yeah, at that point, that thing really deserved to be destroyed. All right, well, I think that pretty much covers everything. So next week, we begin chemical warfare. Well, I guess more biological warfare where we get to see how the Saviors are going to include zombie guts in their weapon arsenal. And we do have Rick back at Hilltop, which means everybody is back together, so they can either plan a good assault or at least mount a credible defense. Again, those armored walls, I think, are going to come well into play. So, that's it for me. Thank you so much for joining me with this review. If you enjoyed it, please go ahead and hit that like button. Thoughts, ideas, comments, throw those down in the section below. I have been crazy busy lately. I'm a little late in writing back to everyone, but you know, I do respond to all of your comments. I love hearing from you, so if it's a little delay for me getting back, just bear with me. I haven't forgotten about you. Now, you can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Darren Jakes. Please subscribe if you're not a subscriber. You hit this button, you'll catch all these reviews. Plus, we're doing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we got Legion coming up, Westworld. Oh man, tons of stuff. We'll throw a couple of these right here, you can check them out. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.